Hey, man.
What's up?
I hate it when you interrupt me. Hey, man.
I didn't. I let you finish your sentence.
Okay.
What's up?
Have you ever heard of P.T. Barnum?
P.T. Barnum?
Yeah.
Is it Petey?
No, P.T.
Physical therapy Barnum.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Have you? What's he known for?
He's known for Barnuminiums, which are homes that are made out of barns.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a pretty popular HGTV thing. They like cut it into 3 condos inside a barn.
No, 3 condos is that lady on Netflix who does the you know?
Okay.
That was pretty funny. We can roll the intro after that. That's a good
spot.
So we gotta wait for like a good joke to roll and that was a good. You know what? Just roll it. Yeah, P.T. Barnum's the circus guy.
Yeah, he's a circus guy, but not just a circus guy.
That's why it felt weird, you sack of crap. You're not going to support that old man? Take a cinder block and go set it out. Let it sit there for a little while. We agree. He goes, I was just saying that for political points. Things I learned last night.
Oh, okay, so P.T. Barnum.
Yeah.
You know who that is, though?
I do know who it is.
Okay, I figured you did.
Yeah.
Do you know
before I was a comedian, I wanted to be a circus clown.
Did you really? Did you go to school?
As a ministry.
Jesus came for your...
Okay.
It's a clown nose. That's a clown nose.
Oh, sure.
Clowns have nose.
Is that where they are?
Sure. I knew exactly what you're talking about. Is that what?
Is that where the clown nose is?
Yeah.
On the clown telling the joke?
Show me on this clown where its nose is.
But you're saying that as the clown.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's like an interactive bit where they bring the person up on stage, they stick the nose in their face.
Your nose?
Yeah, it's the altar call. Everybody, it's like when you go to Taylor Swift. When you see Taylor Swift, then everybody gets the wristbands that light up. When you go see a clown, everybody gets a light up nose that they have to
when you go to see Taylor Swift and everyone honks their nose at the end of the show. It's very not sanitary.
Anyways, P.T. Barnum.
Jesus wants your honk is a quote that will live on the Discord forever, I think, unfortunately. Yeah, P.T. Barnum's the circus guy.
Yeah, he's a circus guy, but not just a circus guy.
Put that in the intro. Okay.
Well, we're off to a good start. All right, here's the P.T. Barnum. Here's what he looks like.
Oh.
Which, if you saw this man walking down the street...
If you saw The Greatest Showman...
Yeah.
Hugh Jackman should not have been cast to play this guy. This guy looks like the Phantom of the Opera without the mask on. You know what I'm saying? Like, this guy...
Yeah.
John C. Reilly would have been a great pick.
That's actually
to play P.T. Barnum.
Very accurate. Very, very accurate. It's interesting because I don't know if it's this era of humanity or if it's this guy specifically, but he looks like the last thing I would expect is that he travels around with a giant tent and a bunch of elephants and people who dance real good. That's the last thing.
That's the job description? Hey, look, I mean, pull up a picture of James Buchanan, because maybe I'm just getting maybe my brain's not working correct though.
You know, I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't remember off the top of my head what Buchanan looks like, but this picture
feels pretty Buchanan-y. Does it look similar at all, or am I insane?
Pretty similar. Is it? Okay. If he combs his hair, there's a lot of pictures with James Buchanan who, after he should have.
Quit taking pictures.
No.
There's so many pictures of this guy after he should have stopped.
There's a lot of them where his hair's like this, and it's like he was outside in the wind, and then he went and took a photograph.
That's what I think. That's what I was saying.
Been like, hey,
he
comb your
looked
hair
very
real quick.
disheveled in his like presidential portraits.
Yeah.
I think.
So here's one where he combed his hair. This is Buchanan with combed hair.
Okay, I wasn't crazy. That
This
was
is
pretty.
P.T. Barnum. Pretty similar.
Is it the same time era?
When
was James Buchanan?
Buchanan was.
I don't know why, but like they both could be played by John C. Reilly. Is maybe why I'm thinking that.
Buchanan died in 1868. Was president 1857 to 1861. So, yeah, same time frame.
Hey, maybe that's what it was then. That was the style. They're gonna think that whenever they see like these guys with the shaved, like my barber does the shaved thing in the head right there.
They're gonna see you like that guy looks like Donald Trump. Pull up a picture of Donald Trump.
That's the meanest thing you ever said to me. I don't like that at all.
There haven't been a lot of. I can't think of a single president who's had cool hair.
What?
Name a president with cool hair.
JFK.
Yeah, I guess his hair is pretty cool.
No, I'm trying to think. Clinton had good hair when he was in office, right? Obama started with good hair. Do you see how fast he grayed while he was in office?
Yeah, but honestly, I will say Obama has great hair, and even gray. Gray made him look dignified. I think some people gray makes him look rough.
Obama looks better old than he did when he was younger.
Yeah, I think some people gray makes you look better. Some people gray makes you look worse. I think Obama looks better with gray.
Yeah, I mean, gosh, yeah, I guess.
Should we dye our hair gray?
Should we just do powerful men have bad haircuts? Should we just
It does
stop
seem like
trying?
it. Have you seen all of the Oakland Raiders staff?
Yeah, the Oakland Raiders owner. He's not the owner anymore.
Yeah, he's not. Their owner, I don't know, I think he's still there.
Is he still the owner?
Their
He just moved it?
Their owner, their coach, and who was it? There was someone on their team.
They've all got the same barber, and that
and
barber
they're
is themselves.
Horrible.
It is.
They were horrible haircuts. Look up their haircuts.
Their barber's blind.
Okay, we've got so much. P.T. Barnum, not Barber.
Okay.
We got a lot to cover
sorry.
here. He has a long life.
Okay.
He was born in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Oh.
His dad was an innkeeper and a tailor and a storekeeper, and like one of those guys who was like
Did a bunch of
an
different stuff.
entrepreneur, but like not successful. Like
A serial entrepreneur?
yeah, like
Sure.
but like he would have had a YouTube channel talking about how to be successful.
I do worry that like when I'm old, I'll have, what if comedy dies in the next couple of years? And then it'll be like, he was a comedian in his like 20s. And then he worked at a used car lot for his 30s.
It's like have you heard that? I don't know why you would hear this. I'd be surprised if you have.
Actually, can you stop? Because we have a lot to get to with P.T. Barnum. Okay. Have I heard what?
It's fine. You don't want to hear it.
Okay. No, I haven't heard it.
It's a song from hold on, I have to gosh dang, I'm not logged into Spotify. I can't remember who sings it. So just forget about this.
Okay.
So but here's the thing, his grandfather was a
T.P. Barnum? The Papa?
TP stands for the Papa.
Yeah.
What does PT stand for then?
Pretty tot.
What?
Pretty Tom.
I think we'll call him Pretty Tom.
Pretty boy. Okay. So
PT stands for Phineas Taylor.
cool. That's Phineas is a name that should make a comeback. His grandfather.
Also Phineas Taylor, actually.
Okay,
though.
sure.
His grandfather had like a really, really strong influence on him. His grandfather did a couple of things that were like noble, but he also was a lottery schemer. And
What does that mean?
It means he like schemed the lottery.
What does that mean? A lottery schemer? Okay, what is that? He schemed the lottery? Okay, how?
By
He
scheming
had
the lottery.
A scheme. to play the lottery.
I don't know exactly how he was scheming the lottery, but
He was winning a lot.
I'm assuming it was something like those. We covered a couple lottery winners on our show.
That kind of figured
that had
out
different things.
Sure.
Yeah. So I'm assuming it's something like that. And he had a lot of influence on young P.T. Barnum.
Okay.
And so when P.T. was
taught him the ways of scamming.
yeah, I guess. When P.T. was a teenager, 16, his father died, and he had to become the breadwinner for the family. So he started working at a grocery store. And while he was working at this grocery store, he realized, I'm seeing a lot of people every day because they're here buying their groceries. Mm-hmm. And so he says, I know what I'll do. I'll start my own lottery. And so...
Okay.
So
Can you do that?
I mean, you can do whatever you want.
It's a free country.
I don't know if it's like...
And I hope it stays that way.
I don't know if
And you know what? Who else believes that? All of our new fans.
I mean, this is like 1825 or something like that. 1826.
Yeah, you can do whatever you want back
And so
then.
back then, like, it's like, yeah, maybe you weren't supposed to do it, but like no one's gonna go get a license to start a lottery, you know, especially in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
A lottery license?
Yeah.
Okay.
No one's thinking that,
So
especially not a 16.
How does he
So here's what he does.
lottery?
He he sells lottery tickets.
Okay.
And he's holding drawings for them weekly, and he guarantees a prize for everyone. For everyone who enters the lottery. And so he said, he's like, the grand prize winner, I'll give them like a fraction of my earnings from that lottery.
Okay.
Same way most lotteries work. But then he was like, everybody else, the grocery store I work at, has a bunch of empty bottles, and they told me I could have them. And so he gives empty bottles to anyone else.
Okay.
For no reason. And everyone was like,
Thanks.
I won. It's a major award.
It's good. It's still hanging on someone's mantle. That's my great granddad's bottle.
He won it in P.T.
He won
Barnum's
that from
lottery.
Pretty Tom.
Pretty Boy Tom gave that to him in a lottery. So we're winners. Our family, we changed our last name to Winner after that.
Okay. Turns out our daughter was like some kind of spy or something like that. Really rough.
So he did this for a few years. And
Did you get that joke?
No.
I didn't think so.
All right. Are you gonna explain it? You just okay, cool. So he just he saved up money from this lottery, and then moved to New York and bought himself his own grocery store. So was able to successfully run this lottery for a few years.
Wow.
And we should be clear. This is the 1820s. So you could buy grocery stores for like $40 back then. Like it wasn't the same.
Yeah.
It's not the same thing, but it's still impressive. And so is managing his grocery store, and you know, he's having like a career, I guess, out of this, but he's not enjoying it. He's in 1835 rolls around. He's 25 years old. He's been doing it for a few years, running the grocery store, and he's successful, but not like
Successful.
yeah, you know, and like he's like I want something more, but he's like, there's one big problem with getting more, and that's work, and he hates working, and he's like, I don't want to have to work. He's like, I'd rather be able to be in a spot where I don't work, and I'm super rich, and so he starts looking for the next big thing, his
Pyramid
big opportunity.
schemes. I've got some great products available that I think you'd like. Creams and assorted.
And so this is the 1830s.
Sure.
So he learns about an acquaintance, like a childhood friend he has who lives in Philadelphia. And this is the 1830s. And so his friend had a slave. Her name was Joyce Heath. And his friend claimed that she was the nurse, the nurse of George Washington when George Washington was an infant.
Okay.
Which I saw the look on your face. The numbers don't add up. She would be 161 years old.
Yeah.
If that was true. But P.T. Barnum was like, you know what?
We can
The
sell
lottery
this.
was pretty easy. And he's like, I think I could pull this off. And so he goes out to Philadelphia and technically...
Pull what off? What do you mean I can pull this off?
That's a good question. So he goes out to Philadelphia.
Is he thinking like, I'm going to sell tickets to see this lady?
Yeah, pretty much. And so he
What?
He goes out to Philadelphia, and
A
slavery
meet and greet with George Washington's like childhood nurse?
Yeah.
Shoot, dude. I hope I'm never that famous. That someone will be like, this was like Jaren's babysitter when he was like 3. That'd be $20 to meet her.
Hey, you want to meet her?
But like, I don't know. I get it's the 1830s. What else are you gonna
weird.
do?
It's weird though. It feels weird. I can speak from experience. I've said a lot of weird things.
What experience can you speak from?
No, when we toured Alcatraz, at the end of Alcatraz, the last surviving inmate
was there?
just at the end of the tour, and like
he's like the door greeter.
Well, no, he was sitting at a table in the gift shop,
And he's like, they
and you
still
can
won't
take
let me
pictures
leave.
with- And it's like my sentence ended 30 years ago, and they're still happy here.
He's like, they won't let me get out of here.
Yeah.
Would you take a picture? No. I told them to quit taking pictures of me long ago. I don't let pictures of me happen anymore. And I shouldn't. Nobody should after a certain point.
He was there, I think, on his own volition. He wrote a book about his experience. He was doing book signings in the gift shop, but it felt weird, and everybody else there felt weird about it too. Because
Did you buy his book?
No,
That's why it felt weird. You sack of crap. You're not going to support that old man. His life was ruined by the archaic prison system that existed
but
in San Francisco.
some people were going and they were taking pictures with him.
I'm glad you had a good vacation.
But everybody else walked by and was like, "Oh, that's uncomfortable."
Just for a refund afterward?
Yeah, we did.
You're like, hey, it was really weird that I had to meet that guy.
Weird that I had to meet that guy.
Can I get a refund,
Also,
please?
he was really drunk, and he was doing magic
He
tricks.
didn't even do the magic tricks very well. I hated it.
Like, so do you know this is a prison?
I'm sure that guy was cool in 2006, but his time is done.
Best show in San Francisco? I don't know, man. So he had $500 to his name, so
Okay.
he took out a loan for $500 to make it $1,000, and then made an offer to lease Joyce from her owner, which was weird because that was technically still illegal. Like, even at this time, slavery was illegal in the North because they were in northern states, and so that shouldn't have been legal to happen. But he exploited
Was
some
it illegal
loophole.
in the North?
Yes, yeah, it was illegal
Because
in
he
the
was
North.
technically leasing her.
Yeah, so it wasn't technically
He wasn't
slavery.
owning.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so he took her on tour so people could meet George Washington's
This
nurse.
lady.
And made...
But that's what I'm saying. Like, what are they putting up? Like, if it's just at high V, and they're like, this guy nursed, or this guy, maybe progressive. I don't know.
Yeah.
This gal nursed Ronald Reagan when he was a baby, you know?
Yeah.
And she's at high V this weekend. And
Yeah.
you're like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, they... that's exactly what happened.
He's doing a
pretty
meet
much.
and greet.
Yeah.
He really
And
was.
It was like 20 cents to meet her. And
Was she old?
yeah, she was old. She was about 80 something at the
Okay.
time of this, not 161.
Right. Which
but,
is what she would have needed to be.
But the one thing I respect about P.T. Barnum, there's a lot that you probably shouldn't respect about him until he gets old. When he got old, then there's some things you can respect about him.
Okay.
Because he learned some stuff. But at this point in his life, there's not a lot you can respect about him. But one thing you can is he always made posters for his events that were, I think, ahead of its time.
Okay.
This was his poster for this. Little
Oh.
baby George Washington.
With full, so just so everyone knows, it's, obviously the older woman holding a not baby. It is a just
a
small George
version of
Washington.
George Washington.
Pretty funny. With
In
a sign
full
that says
military.
aged 161 years.
Yeah, George Washington isn't even around anymore at the time of this.
Yeah.
And they're saying,
But
his
it's like, when
nurse
we look though, that's honestly, that is ahead of its time because that's like full grown George Washington just shrunk down and put it in her lap.
Yeah, that's some Photoshop right there.
Pretty funny.
It is pretty funny. And so they took her around on tour.
And they said she was 161.
Yeah, they said she
So
was
he knew it was a
161 years.
lie.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, his friend told him she's 161 years old.
Yeah, but that's like whatever.
But
dude.
he's
like, oh,
knew
okay,
that wasn't true.
sure.
And so they took her on tour, and this
But
was a huge hit.
At that time,
What?
people just believe stuff, man.
It's true.
No one had invented lying yet, and so people were like, "This is just true."
Yeah, that's accurate. And so he made a killing off of this.
There's no
It
way
was
to prove anything yet.
Every time he would go into 20 Cents to See Her, people were like, "Oh, I want to see George Washington's nurse," and so people were coming from all over the place to see this and experience it. But it only lasted a year because she passed away a year after.
162.
And he had developed a little bit of
A taste.
a reputation because some people were like, "There's no way that's actually
But
George
then
Washington's
that
nurse."
ends up helping him.
Yeah, and because,
From a marketing standpoint, that's what you want.
Yeah, and because of that, he capitalized on that as well. And so after she died, he hosted a live autopsy to prove her age. And so at a saloon in New York City, which is a saloon of all places, like
With
that,
the doors and everything.
Yeah, that sounds like that cannot be up to health code. But they hosted a live autopsy. He sold seats, and people came and they watched it, and they verified she was 82 years old at the time of her death. And everyone was like, it wasn't real. But it was cool while it lasted, I guess.
How were they age verifying at that point?
I don't know. I think teeth.
Okay.
Yeah. Everyone's teeth has numbers on them. Like,
Oh my gosh.
the back of your teeth has a number for your age. Yeah. Can you feel that? Yeah. It changes every year. On your birthday, it's
Mine
crazy.
says 31. But I'm
You don't know how.
29.
Oh, you need to call your mom.
I need to call my mom right now.
Call my mom.
Mom, you call her.
I need to call my mom. I can't
So-
talk right now. I'm so frazzled. I'm 2 years older than I thought I was.
This changes so much.
It changes everything I know about myself.
Oh, man. Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. If you like this and you want more of our show, we've got plenty of other episodes. One of my favorites is Action Park, a super sketchy theme park that was basically overrun by teenagers, and they just made the rules. It was in New Jersey. It was a wild story, but we did a whole episode about it, and I think you'd like it. So when you're done with this one, go check out that episode. But for now, back to this one. So they were like, yeah, she was 82.
Yeah, she was 82. And so he was like, wow, this...
He's like, oh, I too got bamboozled.
I was tricked by that guy in Philadelphia.
That you all know is real.
That you all is none of the... So she passes away, and he was like, man, that worked out great. And there was a lot of money in taking
Even
someone
just the
around.
speculation.
Yeah. And so he started looking for other people that were unique that he could exploit.
Oh, I thought you were talking about just they're old people. He's just looking for the old.
Just need another old person to take somewhere. And so he started finding
You'll never run out of them.
your typical like carnival,
Sideshow.
like sideshow stuff. Like
Yeah.
so like people with extra limbs or bearded ladies, but none of this stuff was as much of a hit as George Washington's nurse. And so like he kind of struck it big on his first one. And then everything after that was like just kind of
They're like, yeah, we've seen the bearded lady before.
yeah. And so, but he spent a few years saving up his money, and he bought Scudder's American Museum in 1841.
Okay.
Which was like a Ripley's Believe It or Not
Like
museum.
a wax place or what?
No, more like a Ripley's Believe It or Not, because they just would have like weird exhibits of like, here's an example. One of the things that they had in there from the very beginning was what's known as, I think, the Fiji mermaid, which this is allegedly proof of mermaids that exist. They found this in Fiji. And it was this.
I don't like it.
If you're listening, it's
half fish and then not even want to call it a person at the top, but kind of.
Yeah, so this is a recreation of it. We don't have the original, but it was...
Yeah, because it wasn't real.
What he did was he took a skeleton of a monkey and cut it off at the torso and then glued it to
Got it. I was
the
going to say, that's
remains
definitely
of like
not
a
a
trout.
person.
And like glued it to the back of the monkey and then was like, look, it's a mermaid. It's a real mermaid. And people were like, oh my gosh, they found a mermaid in Fiji.
And And that's what it would look like. All these fairy tales of sailors falling in love with that.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's worth it if you're an audio listener to just.
It's terrifying.
Google it.
It is terrifying. So he has stuff like this, like crazy.
But
oddities.
he made it.
Yeah. He's making crazy oddities and saying, "Oh, this
He's
is
like, look, I found a mermaid.
I found a mermaid." Yeah, and so he redesigns this museum.
Oh, wow.
It's Barnum's American Museum. It's big. What is that? 4 to 5 stories.
Yeah.
And had just all these exhibits of interesting things all throughout. And it was literally that. It was like you walk in, you look at something that was kind of interesting, or a person who had an extra limb, or a bearded lady, stuff like that. That you
He's
see
like,
at a carnival.
this is the last surviving person from Alcatraz. It's a baby that he's holding.
And everyone's like, "What's Alcatraz?"
Well, you'll probably die, but he'll find out.
You'll find out when you're older.
He'll find out.
I'll tell you when you're older.
When he's older.
And this museum, he was tricky with this stuff, and so he was set up. It was like a quarter for
You
an
mean
entry.
there's not a real mermaid?
So no, even better. So it was like 25 cents. I shouldn't say even better, even worse. So it was like 25 cents to enter, right? And then you can tour around and see the whole thing. But at the end of every, or not every exhibit, but at the end of some of the major exhibits, he would put up all these signs that say "this way to egress." But at the
What
time,
is egress?
and I guess apparently still now, people didn't know what egress means, which
Is it
just
exit?
meant exit. And so people would be like, "Oh, I want to go see the egress," and then they'd go out, and then they'd be outside, and there's no re-entry, so they had to get another ticket to go in. And so he was just tricking people to buy a second ticket.
Dang it! Oh, I'd burn it down. That wouldn't fly now.
This is who P.T. Barnum was.
I'd burn it to the ground, dude.
But again, still great posters.
Dang.
Hey, there's a sign to the egress.
Yeah, because he was like, ha ha ha, we got him. Okay, sure.
So just a bunch of interesting stuff. Someone with a lot of tattoos, a hippopotamus, Siamese chicken.
Chicken?
Bearded lady. There's a brick.
Is that a bearded lady? The white,
Yeah, I think that's a bearded lady.
pale ghost looking thing?
I think. And then just an average baby.
No, I think it's a huge baby. That's the whole point. That baby's not average.
That's actual size.
That's a large baby.
And then there's a brick in this, because here's what he did. He would do this every day. He would he would walk into the museum.
He'd take one brick from the building. He goes, this can't last forever, guys. And like he would just, he's like, we're here until the building falls down. Just a different brick from a different area. He's like, eventually it'll fall.
Well, what he would do is he would take these bricks, man, and he would walk in and he would grab a brick and he would walk back out with the brick and like just set it on the street and then turn around, walk back in, and then walk back out and grab the brick and walk back inside. And people on their like morning commutes would walk by and they'd be like, "What are you doing with these bricks, man?" And he'd be like, "Why don't you come inside and see?" And it meant nothing. It was just something just odd enough where people would be like,
What are you doing?
Gotta go try to check that out one of these days. And I'm
going to do that when we open our mobile bar.
What are you doing?
Just go take a cinder block and go set it out. Let it sit there for a little while. Come back out, pick it up.
Yeah.
What are you doing? Have you ever heard of Oregon?
They're just doing weird things.
Why don't you come check it out?
And so like it slowly grows in popularity.
What are you
slowly
doing? I'll never tell.
Just giggle. Honk. Bricks. And so, but nothing was like hugely successful yet. Like he was doing well. He was doing well.
Okay.
But it still wasn't like I don't have to work anymore well,
Sure.
that he was shooting for. And then he met Tom Thumb, whose name wasn't Tom Thumb. That was the name he changed for him too. His name was Charles.
P.T. Barnum changed it?
Yeah. His name was Charles Stratton.
And he's like, I'm going to call you Tom Thumb. Is there a reason?
Yeah.
I think you know.
His name was Charles Stratton. And his parents were actually friends of P.T. Barnum.
Okay. And
they
his
were like-
parents were like, hey, our kid's weird.
Kind of. They were like, we don't think he's ever going to be able to make a living on his own.
Why?
Well, he was a dwarf.
Okay.
And at that day and age, I mean, that's a pretty logical conclusion that he's never going to be able to make much money on his own.
Sure.
And so at 4 years old, P.T. Barnum says, okay, I'll pay him, or I guess I'll pay you as the parents, $70 a week.
I'll lease your child.
Pretty much. $70 a week to be in my museum.
That's big money.
Yeah, good money. And so they were like, deal.
They were like, yeah.
They're like, done
yeah,
deal.
yeah.
And so he legally changed his age to 11 years old, and legally changed his name to Tom Thumb, because for some, I think he thought that would sell better, which I think it does. I think it is better than Charles Stratton.
Okay.
And then calls him a general and says, come see General Tom Thumb.
At 11 years old?
At 11 years old. But he's 4 years old. But he says he's 11 years old.
Is there a picture of Tom Thumb?
Yeah, here's a picture of P.T. Barnum and Tom Thumb standing together. They end up becoming best friends. They're lifelong friends after this.
That makes sense. But like, why 11? If you're going to change the age, just shoot big, you know? Go for 160, you know?
Yeah, I don't know why the age 11 was chosen. I think maybe it's because he still kind of behaved like a child. So they were like, well, we can't act like he's an adult.
But he's a general.
That's also
You know what I'm saying?
That's also true.
Like, why? That's what I'm saying. Like, General Tom
Yeah,
Thumb.
I don't know.
He's
But they
11.
He's an 11-year-old. Come meet the 11-year-old general.
That's what I'm saying. It's like, okay.
I think maybe that's the idea, is meet the 11-year-old general. And they
Because that's what was interesting about him. Sure.
and they taught him to say like general stuff. And so he would walk in a room and he'd be like, hello, troops. I don't know. Whatever generals do.
Yeah.
And then they taught him to sing, and that crushed. And so it had developed an audience.
That's
before.
what they're like, oh my gosh, he's a war general. And then he goes, and they're like, he's a singing war general. Take 2 quarters.
How many quarters do you want? Take me to the egress so I can give you more. Yeah.
And he goes, follow me. He's got to be running around. He's a child. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so Tom Thumb makes him a fortune. The word spreads of the singing 11-year-old general, and people start traveling to New York just to see Tom Thumb.
Okay.
And so
They become lifelong best friends?
they become lifelong best friends.
Wow.
Him and Tom Thumb. And he takes Tom Thumb on tour a couple times, but more than anything, Tom Thumb is performing at the American Museum for life and making pretty good money doing it.
Yeah. Did PT have a belief against looking at the camera?
No, I think he did it here.
Oh, okay. Well, that's why
He also did it
That's
here.
why he didn't do it. 'Cause he looks creepy, man.
Yeah. Yeah, after that last picture, everyone was like, hey, why
He
don't
was
you
like,
don't
oh,
look
I
at
got
the
to
camera
divert my
anymore."
eyes. I got to bounce
Yeah.
my eyes.
Yeah.
So,
I love Tom Thumb. And so Tom Thumb makes him a fortune, and it really puts the museum on the map.
Sure.
The museum was open for decades after
he doesn't have to
this.
do the brick thing anymore.
He doesn't have to do the brick thing.
He's got
Yeah,
enough
people are
coming
coming on their own. And it gets to the point where the museum is now bringing in 400,000 visitors per year. By 1846, it gets to the point where the museum earns him $80 million. Translated to today's money, I should say.
Oh, I was going to
That's
say,
translated to today.
what?
So he makes a ton of cash off this museum. And Tom Thumb really kind of put him on the map and made this happen.
Okay.
And so he goes on a little bit of a spinning spree, finding more oddities and kind of compiling stuff to have in his museum, and then says, I'm going to open up a new house for me. But the house,
new house for
the
me?
house is-
I'm going to open up a new house for me. You mean you're just going to build yourself a home?
Yeah, to propose it to
Nah,
investors,
it's like a
though.
business plan.
It's like a business.
It's like
It's a house for me.
I'd like a house for me, and then I like that same house built smaller for Tom Thumb. I'm gonna give it to him for his 18th birthday.
And we'll put it in the garage.
His 18th
and no one
birthday
will know.
His 18th birthday is next year.
Well, we could change that.
Not really. It's you got more time.
He's got at least I don't know 7 years.
It's a lot like Tim's anniversary in that
on paper
there's 2 of them.
Yes. So
That's okay. The government doesn't listen to this.
So he builds this new house, and he wants this house to be a thing though, where he has his home, but he also hosts major events here. And so he puts in a theater, and he builds like a big ballroom because he's like, I want the best music artists in the world to come do their performances here in my home.
Music here, yeah.
And so he opens up a home, and he names it Iranistan, and this is it.
Holy cow!
Builds this in Connecticut. In 1948 is when he built it.
No, 1848.
Sorry, 1848. That's what I meant.
Otherwise, he'd be 161 years old.
If you're listening, it's a giant house, and it's in your classic like India like temple style. So they've got like the big dome, like bulbous rooftops with the spires.
3 stories.
Yeah, depending on who you are, if you believe in Tartaria, you would think this was here 700 years ago.
It's still standing, is it?
No.
Okay, I guess you'll tell us why.
So, giant home.
Is this out back also his?
Yeah, the whole property is his. There's lots of sub-buildings.
Small buildings, that's Tom Thumb's house out there. Okay. And a fountain out front?
Yeah, so I mean, just an absolutely obnoxiously gigantic mansion, even for today's standards. If you saw this in 1848, it will blow your mind at how big this guy's house is. If you saw this in 2023, it would blow your mind at how big this guy's house is.
Yeah.
Like, it's huge. It's a palace by every measure. So a couple of years after he builds this house, he finds out about a Swedish singer named Jenny Lind, who was huge in Europe. And he thought he could benefit off of her success. And so he calls up her crew and is like, hey, why don't you guys come on over to the States? I'll tour manage for you guys, and we'll let you build an audience out here. And so...
Would an audience translate if you came over from Europe? Like, would people show up?
Typically, no. But P.T. Barnum, one of the things that P.T. Barnum got really, really good at was publicity and marketing. Yeah, he got really good at marketing stuff. And so he was confident he could build an audience for her before she even got to the States.
Okay.
And so he went to her and he offered a 150-night tour to pay her $1,000 a night.
Jeez.
In that day's money. So translated today is $40,000 a night for a 150-night tour.
Jeez.
So she was like, hey, that sounds great. Can you pay me up front? And he was like,
no.
He was like, yeah, I think we can do that. And so he went and he took out a loan against his museum. He took out a loan against his house. And
This is stupid.
And he put his entire savings.
This is so dumb.
And he still came up $6,000 short of what he offered her. And so he went and he was asking around for money. He found...
no, that's so dumb.
And so he found a pastor.
What, you just like a musician enough that you're like, we're going to do it. I'm going to force it to happen.
He found a pastor in Philadelphia.
To give him $6,000?
And he needed $6,000. And so he told this pastor
Even back then, pastors were rolling in it, huh?
He found a pastor in Philadelphia and he said, hey, Jenny Lind, one of the things she was famous for in Europe was her morality and her philanthropy. And so he said, I think if we have a star in the United States that's famous for the things she's famous for, we could really see a change in the morality of our nation.
Okay.
And convinced this pastor, and so the pastor put up $6,000 towards it and was able to pay her up front. And she put the majority of it straight into her charities and then sailed to the U.S., and he started marketing it, and he really played up the morality, played up the philanthropy stuff and the marketing.
Okay.
And when she arrived, she had no audience in the States before this deal started. When she arrived at port, there was 40,000 people waiting for her to sail in. So
it worked.
Yeah. And so she goes to stay at the hotel that night. There's 20,000 people at the hotel, and they sold out of her merchandise. which is interesting to me. I'm curious
what her merchandise was.
Yeah, like they didn't have t-shirts. Like, there's no way they had t-shirts. Like,
No, I had a blouse, a little fluffy blouse. And
at a fluffy blouse, they sewed
some
Jenny
suspenders
into the front
that
of it.
say Jenny Lynn's holds my pants up. I don't know what her deal is. She's so moral that she...
It says Morals, the Morals Tour.
The Mortals Tour?
Morals Tour.
The Morals Tour.
Morals Tour. And so that night, PT was like, oh yeah, this is going to work.
And then she accidentally cusses in front of somebody. And they're like,
she's not who they said they were.
what a hypocrite.
And then all of the fans' daughters, they started putting black eyeliner on their eyes and going to her shows and were like, I love Jenny.
And they're like, this is the reverse of what we wanted.
Jenny's ruining our nation. No, so she plays at the Castle Garden Theater in New York. I guess is her second night in the States, but her first night of the tour. Sells it out, 5,000 seat theater, huge theater for the day. Sells it out, and this single event, because P.T. Barnum
Generated
P.T. Barnum decided instead of selling tickets, he was going to auction them because it was already so popular. This single event
paid off the
his
whole tour.
investment.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and then they went and did, not 150 nights. They did 93. Halfway through the tour,
She dies.
halfway through the tour, she starts realizing P.T. Barnum's making an insane amount of money off of this tour, and she feels dirty about the fact that he's marketing it off of her morality and her philanthropy. And so he says, if you're going to make this much money off of stuff, he said,
You have to give it away.
I have to make more off of this, is what she said. And so they negotiated a new deal where he would make a $5,500 management fee for each night of the event, and she would make the rest of the profits. And so
she starts making a kill.
yeah. And so by the end of this
tour... And then he was
tour,
like, I don't want to do this anymore. This sucks.
So after 93 nights, the deal kind of fell apart, and they parted ways because she was frustrated with the way he was marketing it. So they didn't do the full 150 nights. But after 93, she walked away having earned about $350,000 in 1840 cash.
Holy
Which
cow.
is equivalent. I've got a calculator up right now.
1.2 or 12 million.
It's equivalent to 13.6 million today.
Yeah.
And then he netted estimates range around $500,000, which was net. And so
Which is like
I don't know.
20 million.
Yeah, I don't know how much he actually took home off of that, because he's had
But
expenses.
still, you take home half.
Yeah, and so the gamble worked really well for him. And so he started saying,
Jeez.
hey, there might be something to this tour stuff. And so he starts looking into...
Winter Jam.
P.T. Barnum started Winter Jam.
Yeah. Get that rumor going.
He said, what if we had a morality
What if we
concert
had...
tour?
And it was, $10 entry, no tickets.
But they auctioned all the tickets for free. Free auction.
Free auction.
So he gets into this concept of touring, and so he starts sending his acts
It's
from the
pretty
museum.
crazy how Winter Jam did that. It's $10 cash at the door. They don't have to pay any processing fees on cards or anything like that. And there's no ticket sales, so there's no other hands in the pot.
It's interesting when you learn how things work,
When you know how business goes and you go, oh,
and you're like, yeah, and then they market it a certain way, and you're like, oh, that's great.
I
Anyways,
see what you did here.
yeah.
P.T. Barnum.
But anyways, you got to get on Winter Jam.
Put me on there. I love it.
I think you guys are
I'm
geniuses
so
for what you're
good.
doing.
I'm so moral.
Yeah, he's also 31 years
I'm
old.
31.
31.
The
He's
legal
above
age to be on Winter
the
Jam.
legal Winter Jam limit. You're enjoying it and you're enjoying TILLN, you've been around for a little bit, I want to invite you to be a part of our Patreon. We have a Patreon that has early access to all of our episodes, ad-free content, both audio and video. We have a Discord with our hosts and producers. That's a ton of fun, getting to hang out with all of our patrons in there. We also do once a month now. We do these live streams with our patrons. We hang out. We get to know each other. We eat pizza. It's a blast, along with a bunch of other benefits like merch discounts, message on your birthday, like fun stuff. It's definitely worth it. We're having a blast with our patrons. But if that doesn't sound like something for you, then get the heck out of here. Just kidding. No, we love you. Thanks for checking out TILLN Podcast. How do they get it though? I realized I forgot to put a CTA in mine.
Oh, dang,
you were doing
gummit.
that. Yeah.
They can text TILLN to 66866.
Thanks, Jaron. So he starts sending his acts on tour. P.T. Barnum is sending his acts on tour, making a killing. His museum's still open, making a killing off the museum. And he starts
sending them out individually on tour.
Yeah, and he's bringing he's starting to work.
So like
with
Tom
musicians.
Thumb's going out on the road.
Yeah, Tom Thumb's on the road doing events.
Wow.
Singing or whatever, and he's working with a lot of musicians now. Jenny got him into the music world.
How are they
he's like a
transporting
music
him? How are they getting
producer.
him around?
Trains.
Oh wow.
And so they he's a huge success, right? Well, in the early 1860s, his museum catches fire.
Oh.
And the newspaper puts out this article of his museum burning, which is...
And there's like a head and, it's a mannequin.
Yeah, I think that's Abe Lincoln's mannequin losing a head.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a terrifying image. This is an interesting time in journalism when the cartoonists that would have typically just done comics,
there was no pictures for the front.
They had them do everything. And they let them do it however they wanted.
They're like, hey, why don't you draw what happened?
Draw a picture of the fire at the circus.
Okay.
And they were just like, cool. And they would just, make it insane. But yeah, so...
Do they know what started the fire?
No.
Okay.
But there was a major fire and it damaged it pretty bad. He was able to get an insurance payout, but it didn't even come close to covering the damages. But he was able to reopen partially, and didn't open the whole museum back up, but reopened partially. A few years later,
a lot more egress signs.
But a few years later, it caught fire again, and this time he couldn't recover.
Yeah,
and so it was a complete loss, and he shut it down for good. Ironically, a couple years later, his house also burnt down.
What?
So I don't know if this guy was literally playing with fire or if something...
There wasn't insurance at the time.
Well, there was insurance, but yeah, it wasn't like the sort of thing where it was like...
He's not collecting insurance.
Yeah, he's not getting... Yeah. I mean, he could have been insurance frauding, honestly, but he wasn't making enough money off of it. He was making more money off of the museum than his insurance. Yeah, his palace burned down. That's why we don't have any pictures
That's
of it.
a bummer.
Yeah, because that
would
cool
have been
palace.
wild to like still exist.
Yeah. I also think there's a possibility. So he, at this point in his life, he got into politics, and he was in the new Republican Party. It was a brand new thing, and it was very different than it is today. It was actually like the inverse back then.
Right.
And so he was very progressive. Had a pretty instrumental part in the 13th Amendment, which is crazy because his career started from that.
Yeah.
And so what he said he gave a speech, and in his speech he said that he was once what was the word he used? Basically like hard-headed Democrat, who was a Northerner who thought explaining people was okay. And he said, over my career, he said, I've been privileged to work with people from all over the world, from multiple different backgrounds, basically, and realize that these people are all the same. Like, there's no reason we should.
Ginny really did change him.
Yeah, and so his life, like exposing himself to other people, changed his life, and so then he was instrumental in making the 13th or passing through the 13th Amendment. But he said in his speeches that he was like he thought he should be punished for the things that he had done in the past. It really looked like a changed man after that, honestly.
And someone was like, "We agree." He goes, I was just saying that for political points. I don't think we should actually
I don't think
do
that's
that.
Yeah, don't punish me. Don't punish
Please
me.
don't punish me.
Please don't.
I've been punished enough. My business burned down. My home burned down.
My business burned down again. And so he was also instrumental in passing legislation that made gaslighting a common thing in cities. So streetlights were existed.
People all the time, man, in the city. Before, nothing like that.
I think we should gaslight more people.
Now they're like, there was no Barnum's Museum. And they're like, well, yes, there was. No, you're making that up. You're crazy.
You're making it up. You're making it up. You're crazy.
And he was like, I did that.
He was like, that was me. That was my work.
I brought more gaslighting here.
But I do think it's possible that because he was such a proponent of gaslighting, that's what burnt his everything down. Because that makes highly
sense.
Flammable. But
like running gas lines as infrastructure kind of stuff?
Yeah, and then lighting the city that way.
Yeah.
And so he was point of all this is to say he was influential in politics as a politician. And then at the age of 63, he was like, you know what I haven't done yet?
Okay.
He was like, I haven't done a circus yet. He said, I've done all this stuff. And everybody in the future knows me for the circus, but I haven't done the circus yet.
He's time traveling at this point.
Get that in. And so he establishes P.T. Barnum's Grand Traveling Museum, Menagerie, Caravan, and Hippodrome. Wasn't great at naming stuff. Great at advertising.
Yeah.
Not great at naming. I think that was normal back then.
Long name.
Names were long.
Yeah.
And so he started
Except for his name. Phineas Taylor, too long. PT.
And so he started running that in 1870. Ran for 11 years. Very successful circus in the States. One of, if not the most successful circus in the United States. Meanwhile, across the pond in Europe, there's a guy by the name of James Bailey who's running a very successful circus in I don't know, the UK.
In Britija.
And he learns about it from Tom Thumb. Important sidebar.
Tom Thumb went over there?
Yeah, important sidebar. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit here.
Sure, yeah, you are.
So in the 60s, during his political career, he ended up getting into some pretty hot legal waters. And so some of the stuff that he did made some enemies, as happens a lot with politicians.
Right.
And he got a little too passionate, I think, about these enemies. And so he started coming after them a little bit too hard. And so he got sued for libel multiple times. And nearly got bankrupt from the litigations that he found himself in. Because his museum wasn't open anymore. He lost his house. So a lot of his assets were literally burnt up.
Right.
And then he was kind of being a little too risky with the slander he was throwing at some people.
Sure.
And it cost him. And so he almost lost everything, but his old friend Tom Thumb at this time had gone off on his own and was touring in Europe and was like, why don't you come on tour with me in Europe? You can open for me. And he did.
Do a type 5 at the top, yeah.
But here's the thing. P.T. Barnum, his whole career, was never a performer. He was always the guy running the show, but not the performer. And so opening was like, what's P.T. Barnum going to open for? So he opened as a speaker, speaking against alcohol. And so...
Thank you for coming tonight. I'd like to start this joyous evening of fun and drinking with a talk about how neither of those things are good for you.
You should not drink.
Were they serving drinks at like theaters and stuff then? I would imagine.
I would assume, yeah.
And so he goes, pour that out.
Pour that out. Dump your drink. Dump your drink.
Dump that drink or dump your soul.
Yeah, he was what was known
choice
as
is yours.
He was what was known as a temperance speaker, and so the idea was alcohol is bad for you. You shouldn't drink it. You should abstain.
He was running a DARE program across the UK.
Basically, opening for Tom Thumb. Everybody's going out to see Tom Thumb perform. The 11-year-old general. He's still 11.
So it's a big bait and switch.
Yeah, and then he comes out and he's like, "Are you drinking tonight?"
Who's drinking tonight? Hey! Well, cut it out.
You're all gonna die.
As you can see in this presentation. And he's like not a good public speaker.
He's really bad at it.
He's like reading postcards. Tonight I'm going to give you... sorry, hold on. So I'm going to give you 3 reasons that drinking is wrong. Not wrong, but like
not wrong, but like not good.
Cue photos.
Can you put the pictures up on the screen, please?
Yeah. Not the one where I'm looking at the camera.
Don't put the camera on.
Not that one.
Anyways, you might not know me. My name is P.T. Barnum. I'm going to, before we get into it, I got to show you a picture of me and my family. This is me, and this is my son, Tom Thumb.
Hey guys, thanks for being here. We just want to say thank you for being here. There's a card on the seat in front of you.
Back in front of
and
you.
you just fill that out, let us know you were here.
Yeah, if you just fill that out with your credit card information, you can drop in the bucket when it comes by, and we'll just take whatever we want.
Nice.
Legally, I'm supposed to say it that way.
Remember that. If you want to reach the summit.
So he goes and does this tour.
I knew that would get you back on track. I knew that would get you back on track.
Makes a good amount of money off of this tour and is able to reboot his career and gets into the circus. Does the circus for 11 years. And then Tom Thumb, who's still on tour in Europe, is like, hey, there's this guy, James Bailey, super successful out here. Looks like he's planning on coming to the States. You should get ahead of that.
Okay.
And so he calls
So that's why he started doing the circus stuff.
Well, no, he had been doing the circus for 11 years at this point.
Oh, okay.
So he calls up James Bailey and is like,
don't come to my territory.
He's like, you're my number one competitor. He's like, you're the Target to my Walmart. You're the Pepsi to my Coca-Cola. He
Barnum
said,
Bailey.
yeah, he's like, what if we join sides? He said, what if we be Pepe Cola? And he's like, that doesn't flow right. What about Walgett?
What if we merge? What if you come over here and I buy your circus and we call it X? I think it'll sell really well. I think people will like it a lot. I don't know, man. I'm just kind of thinking through some stuff.
Picture this. New York City. A giant light up X on top of a building facing the windows of your enemies.
Will people think it's a weird thing?
Yes.
You're thinking too far ahead, buddy.
But if we just make it with gaslights.
I like to think in the moment. And then let my users tell me my mistakes.
Don't plan. And so James Bailey and him, they partner up. Bailey comes over to the States and brings his elephant named Jumbo. And they buy a train. They had for a long time been like chartering train trips.
Yeah, but you can't charter a train.
Yeah, you can't show up with like check bag and elephant. Like the ticket person's gonna be like, no, you can't bring that on our train. And yeah, so they bought a train. They were the first circus to ever own their own train.
Wow. And they were rolling to towns with a full train.
Mm-hmm. And so in 1882, they went on their first tour.
Does somebody go ahead of them, I guess, to tell people the circus is coming?
I think they would mail flyers or something. I don't know. I mean, he was great at advertising. However he did it, people would know it was coming.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how did they do that?
They were the first 3-ring circus, which I think most likely came out of a debate. Because have you ever been to a 3-ring circus? You know what that means?
Yeah.
I don't think I knew what that meant. Like I went to circuses as a kid.
Like there's a center ring where all the cool stuff happens.
Yeah.
And then there's another one where like kind of stuff happens. And then there's another one where they can, because so it's constant entertainment.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're all going at once, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that most likely came out of a debate where it was like these two circuses came together and they were like, well, I want to perform now. And they're like, what if we all do it at the same time?
Everyone wins.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. But anyways, they're the first 3-ring circus. They launched in 1882, and it ran until 2017.
What?
Yeah, it's the longest running any form of entertainment. Ran until 2017.
It ran until 2017? Mm-hmm. Is that the one that came to the Shrine Mosque?
Barnum and Baileys. I don't know if it was that or if it was the Ringling Bros. Ringling Bros in like the post-war era blew up and they gave them a run for their money. And now I think Ringling Bros.
There's one in Joplin.
I think it's bigger now.
There's a company in Joplin that does circuses.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So the
I drive by their field all the time, and like their elephants are just out there. I'm not joking. Like they're on the side of the interstate and they got their big semis and they're still doing it, even though people, it's like, to me, like, how much longer do you think circuses could exist and also SeaWorld? How long do you think SeaWorld could exist? Because I think, like, millennials aren't going to SeaWorld.
Yeah, SeaWorld's close. SeaWorld's got to be close.
It's so close to dying,
SeaWorld's
right?
got to be close. Very close.
I mean, I went a couple weeks ago just to keep them alive.
I don't think I've been to a circus since I was like 6.
I haven't been to a circus even before then. When I was a kid, I knew it was wrong. I was like, this is bad.
Really?
No, we went. I think I went until I was like in, I don't know.
I mean, I think it depends on the circus. Like if a circus is like doing like elephants and like animal stuff, like I think they're on the target list. But I think if a circus is doing like just acrobatics,
yeah, because those animals
those
are
could last.
suffering, dude.
Yeah, I think the acrobatic stuff could last. But I will say, like if I'm on the highway and I see circus tents, like there's a part of me that's like, I should go to that real quick. I should go see
real quick.
And let me tell you. If I'm on the highway and I see a circus tent in the parking lot at Independence Center,
yeah,
and as I'm driving by, I see a guy walk out with a brick. And he sets the brick down.
I go, what's he doing with that brick?
What's he doing with that brick? I gotta find out.
I have to find out.
I have to figure out how to make money off this.
You know what he's doing? He's opening a story loop.
Insane. For real though. Like that's definitely what he was doing. Like it's this question of just like, what's up with the brick? And then you go through the whole museum and
you get through part of it and you end up outside.
Yeah, you end up outside, you gotta pay.
You're like, I still know what's going on with the brick.
The brick. You go through the whole thing.
At the very end, he's there in the gift shop. A copy of my book. And you're like, no, I just want to know what you did to the brick. Book. No. God, what's the brick about? It's about my life. You're like, no. The brick. Oh, yeah, brick.
And then he stands up and sings the Pledge of Allegiance. You don't even sing that part.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
Is he singing the Pledge of Allegiance right now? I don't know what I'm supposed to do.
For which it stands.
Take your hat off. Take your hat off.
One nation indivisible. You get it? You got what I did there, right? Because that wasn't in the because it's the right time era. You guys, it's a good joke.
So the circus is what he's known for, but he didn't start doing it until he was in his 60s.
Wow.
I mean, he made a lot of money doing a lot of other stuff throughout his career. Like the circus was a huge success because he was a huge success doing everything else before, and he knew how the entertainment business worked. And so
I'm going to change my marketing to be Jenny Lynn's marketing, which is just like, come see Jaron. He's a really good guy.
Before Barnum and Baileys started, while he was getting his circus business off the ground, he got into being an author. And so he wrote a book called The Life of P.T. Barnum.
We just did this bit.
Yeah, it's pretty great. He literally did that. He literally wrote,
but he did it under a fake name, so it would be like a biography.
No, it was Life of P.T. Barnum by himself.
Oh, okay.
But everybody thought he meant it was written by him, but he was by himself the whole time. He was
by
alone.
himself. And that's the real story.
10 years later, he wrote a book called The Humbugs of the World, which was him just slandering mediums. Because he had a real problem with them. And he actually, in the book, he offered he was going to pay $5,000 to any medium who could prove they could actually talk to the dead. He's like, I'll give you $5,000. That was how the book ended.
That sounded like one of his friends died. He's like, I'm sick of these people.
I'm sick of these mediums. Yeah, and so then these mediums, there's a group of mediums that actually, they read that book, they read the offer, they found out there was $5,000 up for grabs if they could prove that they could talk to the dead. So they got together, and one of them told one of the mediums a secret, and the other medium was in the other room, and they killed him. And then they did the seance thing, and they proved it, and so he had to pay them $5,000. That's a made-up story.
Yeah, obviously, because he didn't know the secret. He would have had to tell someone a secret and then kill them.
And then, So anyways, they
took him a few times to figure it out. They killed a lot of people before they're like, shoot, he has to tell them the secret.
We can't figure this out.
We'll tell him the secret. The secret is the brick was nothing.
There was nothing to do with the brick.
No point to the brick.
Just a brick.
It's all a lie.
Just a dumb brick.
She was 82.
And he was 4. What are you saying right now?
Well, I don't know. Your friend's going to tell me in a second. Stab, stab, stab. Right? That's probably gonna get marked by the YouTube standards. We're gonna get it. Yeah. There you go. The transcript says stab, stab, stab. Actually, 3 different times because I said it. You repeated it, and now I have said it again. They said you can say stab 10 times.
Don't say it again.
Don't say it again, Tim.
If you stay poke 11 times.
Don't say that.
What's a better word? What's a synonym of
what, Tim? That's what I thought. This conversation's over. You hit your tooth real hard. Did you hear how loud that was?
I wasn't going to acknowledge it. I was just waiting for it. I was just going to let him take it out in post.
It says 29. You're good.
So then he writes a
Here, let him take
like
your
a
tooth
dozen
out in
books.
post. Dude, you should lose a tooth for the bit.
Anybody got a hammer?
Oh, man.
So he writes a couple dozen books. Most of them about like
couple dozen.
Yeah, most of them about how much he hates mediums or about politics or business.
And that's what would happen if we didn't have social media. All these people who leave like 7-paragraph comments would think they're authors.
But then in 1880, right before the Barnum Bailey Circus thing happened, he wrote what is probably my favorite book ever. I haven't read it. Just by the title. Judging the book by its cover, this is my favorite book ever written. This is P.T. Barnum's The Art of Money Getting.
Oh.
Which is so great to me.
I kind of want to read it.
I want to read it really bad. I don't think this was the original cover.
This was not. This is definitely what's available on Amazon now.
Because I think that just because this font is very clearly, this was made in PowerPoint, this cover.
Yeah.
But man, I want to read this book, The Art of Money Getting, all about how he got his money. He is widely attributed for being the person who coined the phrase, "There's a sucker born every minute." Most people think that he didn't say that, and I think the reason for that is because I don't think the slang term "sucker" lasted that long.
Right.
But he was pretty vocal towards the end of his life about the fact that he said that he would say people. It's not that people have a problem with being lied to; they actually crave it. They crave being lied to, and so he would create these ridiculous things so people could be lied to because they liked it. They liked being lied to about this Fiji mermaid. They liked being lied to about George Washington's nurse or a
I don't think it's that. I think they liked believing things.
They liked weird stuff. And so, yeah, he believed that people were entertained by being lied to, and they liked it. And he built a career off of doing that for people.
He's like, no, I was doing it for your good. So he really was gaslighting at the end, wasn't he? Hey, you lied to us. Yeah, and you liked it. We're like, geez, dude, what? No. You craved it. I remember you wrote me a letter one time when you were a small boy. Like I was Santa Claus or something. You said, hello, Mr. Pretty Tom Barnum. Will you please lie to me? You don't remember that?
Please lie to me.
And he's like, wait, you're doing it right now. Aren't you?
To me now.
Yeah, because that's what you wanted me to do. That's okay.
In 1891, his health started to really decline, and he knew it. And so he asked the newspaper to write his eulogy so he could read it before he died. He's like, I think I'm going to die soon. Will you write my eulogy?
Let me read it before you put it out.
I want to read it first. And at the age of 80, he ends up dying of a stroke. His last words were him asking his assistant to get him the receipts from last night's circus because he wanted to see how much they spent. And then he died of a stroke.
Give me the receipts.
Never stopped working until the last minute. The reason we have circuses, probably, honestly. And a major part of the 13th Amendment, even though he was kind of a problematic person the majority of his life.
Sure. Why are you talking like that? Okay.
This is what happens at the end of the radio
at the end of the
tour.
episode, you start going.
This is what happens at the end of the radio tour when you walk around the museum with your earbuds in and the person narrates everything for you. At at the very end of it, they get really close to the mic to finish the story.
Oh, okay.
While you read the plaques and try to listen at the same time.
Yeah,
and you're like,
pretty
this
rough.
is very difficult.
Sure.
Why did you give me the ears and why did you give me ears and eyes at the same time? Like,
Sure.
I can't balance both
I'd
of
rather be
these.
blindfolded going through this museum.
America's first blindfolded museum. We should start that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So P.T. Barnum, legendary entertainer,
Wow.
great author,
Say
prolific,
great author.
prolific gaslighter, and
I do believe in
influential
mediums.
person. You believe in mediums?
Yeah, because so I did the thing one time. I was like, you know what?
You did the
I'm
mediums?
gonna prove it. No, I was like, I'm gonna prove it. So I did
Yeah.
the whole whisper 'em a secret thing.
Whisper the medium?
Yeah, that we killed. And I was like, why are you laughing?
What'd you say?
Why are you laughing? That person's not here anymore. And so I whispered.
Yeah, but they whispered a joke to me just now. Like,
they talked to
they
you?
whispered the secret, and the secret you said was a funny joke.
No,
And
what was
now
the
I'm
secret I
laughing at
whispered?
it. Fiddle Off.
Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Things I Learned Last Night. If you like our show, please subscribe so you don't miss any more in the future. And then we've also got like clips and other episodes and a bunch of other stuff that we've created. We've been doing this show for a long time, but we're glad that you're here now. So please go enjoy our other stuff. Or if you hated us, please just block us. I know never come back. Never be here again. I never want to hear from you.